Being an INFJ can be very lonely and isolating sometimes. A lot of the ways that we understand the world, the things that we just seem to know, just don't resonate with other people, and they have a hard time accepting them as truth. At the same time, I've always been really fascinated by the idea of shamans and spiritual healers because they serve a very important role and function in the cultures they come from. It's my belief that INFJs exist for a reason, and that we fill very similar roles to that filled by shamans in ancient cultures. So I want to talk about that and help you understand better why being an INFJ isn't a curse, why it's a really cool thing to be, and it's really beneficial to the world. You just need to understand yourself a little better and understand your role a little better. Today, when we talk about shamans, a lot of people think about medicine men, spiritual healers, priests, spell casting, and spirit animals, and those kinds of things. In fact, the roles that shamans played were much more complex and nuanced. They weren't just healers or priests. They were advisors, they were counselors, therapists, they were mediators in disputes. They acted as wise men and negotiators. These were all roles that they were able to fill because of their abilities to be intuitive and empathic, and their high value of altruism, and their very creative mindset, their way of seeing the world differently than other people. These are all qualities that INFJs have. And today, we segregate these roles into different avenues. We have medicine as doctors and therapists, and we have counselors, and we have judges, and we have mediators. We have all these individualized roles, all of which are well suited for people who are INFJs. This is one of the reasons I think it's so important to understand what it means to be an INFJ, what your natural and innate abilities and traits are, and how they are beneficial to the world around you. Instead of seeing them as problematic or what makes you different, see them as superpowers, as ways in which you can benefit the world around you. Because as an INFJ, altruism and compassion are huge parts of who we are as people, and that's what we want to do. By understanding these roles and how they applied in ancient society, we can then look at how they apply in today's society and how we can use our skills to help other people. Looking at the connection between INFJs and shamans is one way of understanding your personality and your role in the world. This is something that a lot of people struggle with, and it's one of the reasons I started my coaching program. So if you want to have a better understanding of yourself and your role in the world and what's going to be most fulfilling and meaningful to you, there's a link you can click down below to book a one-on-one consultation with me. Now let's get back to it. Some of the key parts of being an INFJ is empathy, intuition, and altruism, the desire to be helpful. We see and deeply feel other people's pain and suffering, and we want to make them feel better. When we see social dynamics where somebody's being left out or there's a lot of conflict, we want to heal that and make it better. And we see patterns in behaviors and in social interactions that allow us to see the best way to solve these problems very often. These are the same things that shamans did. Today, psychology is more and more understanding intuition as a real thing. It's a sophisticated natural ability to see and process nuanced things like body language, tonality, micro-expressions, even the energy that we generate with our thoughts moving through our nervous system creates an electromagnetic field that people can pick up on. And intuitive people just seem to be better at that. They understand those feelings as energy. That's part of being an INFJ. And that's the same thing as this shaman's ability to talk to spirits or read energies or those kinds of things. It's just that we don't necessarily use the same language to express it. So intuition isn't a sixth sense. It's a natural ability, and it's something that's more and more understood by science. But it's something that not everybody possesses in a high degree. INFJs do. This is one of the reasons that INFJs are better suited for roles similar to that of a shaman in modern society, because we have those abilities. This is why we do that. Intuition is something I struggle with a lot because I was raised in a world where empathy and intuition was treated as sort of mumbo jumbo. And once I began to embrace it as a real thing, as something that is measurable, quantifiable, and useful, I had to relearn how to trust my intuition. And that is something I help a lot of people with as a coach. So if that is something you struggle with and you want to talk more about that and how to develop those skills better, please click the link below and book a one-on-one consultation with me, and we can talk about how coaching could help you. One of the things I think is really interesting and telling, and that brought me to this idea of INFJs as shamans, is that if you look at the distribution of different Myers-Briggs personality types in our culture, there are 16 different types, but they're not evenly distributed. Some types are more prevalent than others, and INFJs are one of the most rare, usually about 1% to 2% of the population. And if you consider that ancient tribes were groups of about 100 to 150 people, 1% to 2% meant that at any given time, only 1 or 2 individuals probably had the INFJ personality style. You would think that type of style might get weeded out over time with evolution because it's so rare, but in fact it kept coming up over and over for generation after generation for literally hundreds of thousands of years, which means it served a really useful purpose. Well, what purpose does it serve? We're so well suited to the role of shamans, and shamans are ubiquitous through all cultures. They call them different things, and they might have different nuances in the way they do what they do, but they show up over and over and over again. Those same roles being filled in every culture, in every society throughout history and long before history. But we need more of one type of person than we do of another type of person. That's why I think INFJs were very often probably shamans, and I think that's why our unique personality style, even though it is so rare and sometimes feels like so outside of everybody else and so isolating, actually serves a really important purpose and still exists today. Another concept that comes up very often when we're talking about shamans is non-ordinary states of consciousness. Think about them going into trance states or visiting the spirit world, talking to animal guides, those kinds of things. If you think that somebody is sick, very often a shaman would think that they'd lost their soul or their guide and would go into the lower world to bring it back. That's a very complicated way of them understanding what they were doing. But in fact, we still do these sort of things today. We have alternate states of consciousness with meditation and flow states and trance states that we get into through various methods, whether it's simple meditation or psychedelic drugs, breath work, all kinds of ways that we can access these things. And flow states, so when you get in flow doing something you really enjoy and it's like this out-of-body experience. These are all alternate states of consciousness. Shamans specialize in that because that allows them to unlock their brain and think in non-linear ways. And again, this is something that's very common to INFJs. We are very creative thinkers, and this is one of the reasons that we tend to gravitate towards metaphors a lot. We understand the world in a way that's hard to explain in very linear thinking. So we use metaphors and we use stories. So for a shaman in an ancient culture, their way of understanding the world using those metaphors could easily be using the metaphors of animals. And those animals represent certain qualities and characteristics in people's personalities. So we can see how if you're looking at the ancient world through the lens of somebody living in that time and you attribute the metaphor of certain personality traits to certain animals, the crow, the wolf, the elephant, the lion, then your understanding would be when you need those personality traits, you need that spirit animal. It's just a simple way of understanding things that we shouldn't confuse that as being naive or overly spiritual or simplistic. It's just simple the metaphors they use to explain things themselves so they can understand it. It's the same thing we do today. Shamans also acted as the moral compass for their community. Place of honor that they held gave them the ability to advise their leaders and to make judgments and to mediate, always looking for right and wrong, looking for what would help solve a problem in a community so that there weren't bad feelings moving forward, so that everybody benefited in the long run. Whenever there's a dispute, people want, I want to win, I'm right, you're wrong. And a shaman can look at it and say, well, you're maybe right here, but you're maybe wrong there. And if you take all of the winnings, then that's going to cause hardship here and hard feelings, and that's going to create problems moving down. So we need to find a more equitable solution so the whole community can move forward. This kind of altruism and compassion and empathy and moral guidance is something that INFJs naturally embody and we can bring into the community today. So again, that's another way in which we embody the role of the shaman and take it into the world today. Another important trait of shamanism that a lot of people miss today, and this is anybody who's thinking of themselves that, oh, maybe I'm a shaman. I want you to think very carefully about that, because That sounds like a very ego-driven idea. You want to be a shaman. Wanting to be something versus naturally gravitating towards a role in which you serve well are two different things. Shamans went through trials. They matured into being a shaman and fulfilling that role. They didn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to be the shaman for the tribe. They had to be accepted by the tribe as that person. The tribe had to see the benefit of having that person in that role. And that often comes when you've matured to the point where you take your ego out of the equation, where you're not looking for what's best for you, you're looking what's best for everybody. And to do that very often comes with time, it comes with age, and it comes with having a lot of experience in the world, especially bad experiences. A lot of the research on shamans shows that one of the ways a tribe began to recognize a shaman was when they went through an extreme illness or very, very difficult injury that looked like they were going to die, and then they came back from that. And the tribe saw that as maybe visiting death and then returning from the underworld. Those kinds of hardships give you a much deeper understanding of the hardships other people go through, and it makes you more empathetic, and it helps remove your ego from the equation, so that when somebody's talking to you about their problems, you empathize with them. That is something that is really difficult to teach to people. It's something that just comes naturally through life experience. And this is why it is really important to understand that just because you're an INFJ, I am not saying you're a shaman. We have these qualities and these traits for a very good reason, that we can serve our world, our community, in very important and special ways that not everyone is good at. When we understand that, we begin to see these traits as blessings, not curses. And that helps us feel better about ourselves and be empowered to take action in life and embrace who we are and live a better, more meaningful, more fulfilling life. And that's all I want you to take from this. I don't want you to think that just because you're an INFJ, oh, you must be a shaman. No, I want you to think that, hey, how can I embrace these qualities that I used to hate and use them to make the world a better place? I just want you to think about being an INFJ a little differently, so that you don't feel that isolation and loneliness that I have felt, that I know most INFJs feel at some point. As an INFJ, the way in which I fulfill my shamanic role is by being a coach, by helping people understand themselves better so they can live more fulfilling and meaningful lives. If you want some help in your journey to living a more fulfilling and meaningful life, to understanding yourself better and how to use your intuition and your empathy and your altruism and your compassion, click a link down below and schedule a one-on-one call with me so we can talk about what coaching means to you. And we can really see where you need help and whether coaching is a good fit for you. So click the link below, book your appointment, and I'll see you there. As INFJs, we have a lot of interesting quirks that some people find hard to understand. Sometimes we don't even understand them about ourselves. One of them is the INFJ stare. And I did a whole video on that, which you can click right here, and I'll see you there.